The chart is not deterministic. It doesn't say who you're going to become. It doesn't say how your life is going to be. It will tell you what you're going to be navigating, like the energetic waves. It will tell you like your rites of passage and when they happen. And it will tell you that context in which you're going to play. But how that unfolds, no, that's our free will. And I really love this. I love having this creative freedom. For me, if everything was determined, it would be like, well, like, yeah, that's not that fun. But the creative freedom for me, that's way more fun. That's why personally I don't believe in predictions, and I don't believe in predictive astrology. I know it's a big thing because I feel like that negates this aspect of like creative freedom.
Hey, beautiful soul. Yes, you. You are beautiful, whether you identify as female, male, trans, alien, fairy, witch, daughter, son, mum, dad, sister, brother, grandpa, grandma. You are beautiful, and don't you ever forget to be you to the full. Thank you so much for stopping by and clicking on this episode. It has called you for a reason, and that is because it matches your frequency and your vibration, and there is a message in it for you. Before every episode, I sit in meditation and I ask for those who are meant to benefit from my conversations be guided to it. Now, if you resonate with this episode, please subscribe, like, and comment below. And even better, share this with another being. Now, when we share our information, we can help to bring consciousness to as many beings as possible. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for spending your time here and working on yourself to find out who you are so that you can help others shine their light just as much as yours. Now let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, it's Melissa, and welcome back to the Purpose Search podcast, where I discuss all things science, spirituality, and purpose. If you're new here today, I hold conversations with people who are incredibly knowledgeable in their field that have found their purpose, which I hope will spark something inside of you to listen to the call of your heart and intuition. Today, we welcome Andrei Topli, who is a multidisciplinary artist, astrologer, creative consultant, and mentor who supports people in aligning with their soul blueprint, alchemizing their shadows, and unlocking their creative potential. Through astrology, gene keys, and intuitive wisdom, he helps others reconnect with themselves and step more fully into their authentic expression. He is deeply passionate about the mysteries of life, visual arts, tea, self-growth, writing, and travel. And one of his greatest gifts is his ability to translate complex systems into accessible, easy-to-understand language through the art of storytelling and teaching. For the past 11 years, Andrei has been living a nomadic lifestyle, immersing himself in sacred tools and practices that have guided him through profound personal transformation. Astrology, gene keys, tarot, cacao, and journaling became anchor points that have helped him remember his truth, especially during life's darkest moments. Today, he offers one-to-one astrology and gene key sessions. He leads a creative expression program, and he mentors men who are struggling to find direction and clarity and purpose in their lives. Welcome, Andrei, to the Purpose Search. I'm so excited to have you here today. How are you?
Hey Melissa, yeah, really good. Wow, what an introduction. You gotta send that to me. I gotta put it on the website. I was like, wow. Yeah, I'm good. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, if you're
God
new
bless
here
you.
today, every episode I start with a short breath exercise to drop us into the body and get present into the conversation before we come onto screen and we're listening in through our ears. So today, please do not do this if you are driving, but I invite you to close your eyes or take a soft gaze in front of you if that feels more comfortable. And we are going to focus on our breathing. So I'd like you to drop into the body, take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Now I want you to try and visualize a river, a stream that is in front of you. Imagine the sounds. What does it feel like, the wind on your face? And any thoughts that are coming by, I want you to imagine some leaves on the water trickling by. And as you breathe out, we're going to let those thoughts go onto those leaves and trickle and float by. Breathing in. Breathing out, letting the thoughts go by on the leaves, on the water. Another deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Last one, taking a deepest breath that you've taken today. And we're going to exhale longer than the inhale, breathing out. And when you're ready, come back to your fingers and your toes. Softly open your eyes. Then come back to screen and listening to the audio. Thank you.
Nice. Thanks for guiding that.
You're
It's
so
a really
welcome.
cool intro. I love it.
Yeah, I feel that having an introduction like that is something that I've not seen on any podcast before. And I feel like some podcasts, they have a meditation at the end. But I feel that it's really important when we come onto screen that we become present with each other. And I feel like something that we did in Bali a lot is dropping into the breath and coming present with the conversation. That's interesting because one of our tarots, our oracles that we pulled today was divination, was dropping back into the present, which is I think such an important thing of being here right now, because that's where the beauty lies.
Yeah, that's true. Also very synchronistic. Like since you mentioned the gene keys in like in the introduction, like today, if I remember correctly, is the last line of the 23rd gene key. As the sun transits through it, and the 23rd is all about the quintessence, the simplicity. So I feel like through this meditation, through this breath, we're really anchoring into that simplicity. Like as you were saying, like allow the thoughts to like go on that riverbanks, like all the shadow of that complexity of like all the thoughts or like pulling us in different directions of recording, doing this, thinking about it. It was so nice to like really being anchored in the body. I mean, like, oh wow, like we're just here with two people having this conversation.
Having conversation on the last day of the 23rd gene key.
Yeah.
So synchronistic. I love that. And I cannot wait actually to dive into a lot of your gene keys. One of the first questions I ask all my guests are, what sparks joy in you? I hate that question of what do you do? I've kind of introduced you already, but I want you to tell us, like, what sparks joy in you?
Good question. Well, quite a few things. Right now, I would say this tea is like
You
really
love
lovely.
some tea, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, this really lovely pu'er tea that I picked up on my way to Europe from Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, really lovely tea always for me. Like it gives me so much joy. I'm very grateful to my friend Adrian who introduced me to tea last year, and since then it's been one of my like main practices. And for me, it's really like that quintessence, that like really simplicity, and it's a perfect kind of blend of like nature, body, aesthetics, beauty, taste, like sensations, and grounding. So I'm like, it's
Why
perfect.
wouldn't we all just have tea all day long?
So I've been introducing tea into like a lot of my practices. Even when I have sessions with people, I usually sit and enjoy a cup of tea, or like several. So yeah, I would say tea is one of the things, and then art. Like I really love art, and it brings me so much joy. And it lights me up a lot. Like I get inspired a lot. Especially, I mean, all sorts of art, but I'm a visual artist, so especially visual art, like cinema, photography, design, those sort of things. And yeah, I've had several years when it's like I was in a different journeys, and I haven't really like practiced my art, but like since 2 years ago, I've been like coming back to it, and I realize like how nourishing it is and how it lights me up. And now I'm like weaving together art in the the practices that I do with people, and like the coaching that I do, like creative expression for me, it's like a big part of all the everything that I do with
Mm,
myself and with other people too.
that's
So
so
yeah, these
beautiful.
two. Mm.
Yeah, you've had a background in photography and design and web design. So you have been creative your whole life, and I love how you're now weaving that within what you're doing and bringing those modalities and creative expressions all together, which is so beautiful for what your purpose is now. Um, Next question. What is your astrology signs and what is your human design? Please tell us all of this.
Bless you. Well, I'm a double Aquarius and a moon in Cancer, so Aquarius sun and rising. And my human design is 4/6 sacral generator. Um, yeah,
And your life incarnation cross is the right angle cross of four ways, which is so
yeah,
fascinating. So we've got the 19, 33, 44, and 24 gates. And the purpose is to guide others by reviewing past experiences and identifying the best parts and paths to move forward. So cool.
nice.
I find that
Right
so
on.
synchronistic to what you're doing now. So yeah, holding one-to-one sessions through astrology and gene keys. Tell us the story about how you came into finding astrology and finding gene keys.
Oh,
And
wow, okay.
what are they for people who have no clue of what gene keys is?
So gene keys are kind of like the algorithms of awakening. I would say they're um, it's a system that is translating the codons in our DNA, so the 64 codons that exist in our DNA, uh, into like a way of us aligning with the essence of who we are. So basically, it's a living wisdom. So it's not something that lives in the mind, like I was saying, it's something that lives in the body. And the more we go through the gene keys, it works through the art of contemplation. So the more we contemplate uh, the gene keys, it creates physical changes in our body. So our bodies literally evolve through it. Our DNA evolves with it. So yeah, being a living wisdom, it's very interesting to work with it because, like I was saying, it's not something that you just read and like learn and then that's it. You have to like practice and embody. So yeah, I've been on the Gene Keys journey for many years. Actually, I don't even remember exactly how it got into my life. I remember like many years ago, I was living in Spain with my best friend, and yeah, we were kind of like he was getting into human design, and at some point I think he found a book by Richard Rudd, and then like I was on a different journey back then, doing other things, still with psychology. And then he was like, dude, like I gotta read you this. And he was like, what's your he took my birth time and date, and then he did my hologenetic profile. I didn't know what's that back then. And then he was like, oh, I gotta read your life's work, which is like the top gene key in the profile, like based on the sun position the moment of your birth. And well, that's 19 for me. And then he read the 19 gene key, like the synthesis from the book, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, this is incredible.
Mm.
I was like, wow. And it's been on the back of my mind for a while, and then somehow I yeah, I don't remember the precise moment because I was keep going like in and out. It's like sometimes I would just like read a gene key, or like I would encounter a number and read another gene key, and I wasn't like really like studying the system until, yeah, I think it was like 3 years ago,
Mm.
when I really was like, okay, let me like actually study the system. And then I read the book, and then I started working with people, and it became like a serious thing. Before it was just like, yeah, getting glimpses of it, but it was really really life changing. And with astrology on the other side, Actually, first I got into I started working with the tarot because I was studying psychology. Yeah, it was like, yeah, a few years ago at the beginning. I think after the pandemic, or like at the beginning of the pandemic, I was living in Costa Rica. I dated a girl that she was a clinical psychologist, and yeah, it was like I was doing web design back then and web apps, and just like hanging out with her, I was like super like impressed of the work that she was doing. She was also working with the tarot. She was using the tarot cards to do like Jungian psychology on her clients, and it was fascinating. And I always had this thing for like magic, divination, working with the subconscious, all of these things. So like obviously in our conversations, a lot of these things were coming to surface. And long story short, it's like after we kind of like went our separate ways, yeah, that desire and inspiration stayed with me. So long story short, I had this like deep drive to explore it on my own way. So I just quit my job back then. I had some
Wow.
savings put, and I literally spent like 6 months just like I lay down the tarot cards in front of me, and I was just like looking at them and letting the connection come to me and like observing them. And obviously, I was like reading Jungian psychology back then, so I was working with the cards through these lenses of psychology. And then a few months later, I moved to Guatemala, and then I started working with people. And that's how this kind of like sessions started. And then obviously, I have this curiosity of mine that I like to dive deep into everything. So I started to look at different ways in which I can enrich the vocabulary of how I communicate with the cards. And astrology was one way, because I realized like, oh wow, these uh, archetypes of the tarot and like the Jungian archetypes, they're universal, and then like they also connect one to one with the archetypes in astrology. So for me it was fascinating, these connections. And then I started to, whenever I was pulling cards, to look at the signs, to look at the planets, to see how
Yeah.
these things connect. And yeah, it was a few years ago, on it was exactly on the day of an eclipse. I wasn't aware back then because I wasn't following the transits.
Yeah.
It was literally on the day of the eclipse that I woke up one day and I felt this curiosity to look at the chart. And I opened the chart and like I understood it. It made so much sense, and I was like, "Wow, this actually makes so much sense." When you look at like Jung's journey of individuation, the hero's journey, I could see that in the chart, like starting from the ascendant, and it all
Hmm.
made so much sense as you go through the 12 houses. I was like, wow, this framework is really interesting, and this language. And since then, like I started pivoting more and more. I mean, I still use the tarot sometimes, like especially in my own practice, but
Hmm.
astrology has like uh, kind of like taken over, and it just, I feel like it was a language in which I was way more fluent. And not only that, I was way more fluent, I could speak better. And hence, like language is basic, our perception is tied to language. So for example,
Yeah.
when I speak English or when I speak Romanian or I speak Spanish, I feel like I'm thinking differently.
Mm.
So the same, it was like when I was speaking tarot or when I was speaking astrology, I was like thinking a little bit differently. And
Wow.
with astrology, I feel like my perception was the most expanded. It was kind of like a language that I could
Mm.
write poetry in. It was like I could
Mm.
really dive deep and like touch someone's soul. So since then, yeah, it stayed with me, and it's became my framework for everything that I do, even creative work. So like business, entrepreneurship, everything. It's like I do it through the lenses of the framework of astrology. So yeah, it's interesting.
Wow, that is fascinating, you explaining it like that. And what was coming to me was like, that makes so much sense. Like, it's like someone, I'm just going to really like bring this back a little bit to maybe give an analogy for someone who maybe has not heard of astrology and gene keys before. It's kind of like going on the piano and going, oh, yeah, I
Mm.
like playing the piano, but then finding by playing the piano that you meet someone else who, so actually, this is what happened to me. I started playing piano, and then my piano teacher said, right, now you need to start learning a bit more on an actual piano, not on a keyboard, because you need to use the sustain pedal and you need to go a bit higher on your grades. And she said, well, you can do grade 5, but you need to get a piano, or you can do singing. So I went to singing, and then I started singing, and I was like, oh my goodness, my voice, I can just sing, and it's so easy. And I don't, and and that's where I found my vocal expression, through singing rather than through piano. So yeah, that was such a cool way of explaining it. So thanks. That was like, gave me a bit of a realization there too. Because that's how I then went into my career. I started singing lessons, and then through that I then went on to go to musical theatre, and then through that then kind of found my, had my spiritual awakening, and then led me to all of this. So yeah, wow, love that. We're all
Yeah,
mirrors
for
for each
sure.
other, aren't we?
Yeah, it also reminds me, like, a couple of years ago I was visiting Middle Eastern with a few friends, and one of them, she's actually from Saudi Arabia, but she lived many years in the US. So like her English is perfect, basically. Like she always talks English. And we were hanging out at a coffee shop, and I noticed that she was journaling, but she was journaling in Arabic. But she never talked Arabic with us. She always, obviously, like, I don't talk Arabic, but like, anyway. So I was asking her, like, why do you journal in, like, why you're not journaling in English? And then she was telling me that, oh, because she feels like with Arabic, because it was her native language, she was basically a different person when she was speaking this, and it was giving her like there were different pathways in her brain that were opening up through that language. And then for me, it was fascinating. I was like, wow, so it's interesting to think like how language basically wires us differently. And then like obviously like there's that movie, the famous like Arrival movie. I don't know if you saw it.
No, I've not seen it.
Yeah, you gotta watch that. It's so
Okay.
good. It's like my favorite sci-fi movie. But yeah, it's all about like languages. Like, long story short, it's about this like scientist that tries to decode an alien language, and then that has like rippling effects in her own ways of perceiving reality. So for me, like, when you think like all of these things, like
Gene
astrology,
keys,
for
human
example, the
design.
gene
Yeah.
key, human design, they're just languages. So
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you
yeah.
learn these languages, basically it rewrites how you see reality. It like
Yes.
expands, it like shifts, it
Yes.
creates different pathways in your brain. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Wow, yeah. And it's also interesting because language can be so limiting.
Yeah.
And I remember us talking, because the reason why I found out about Gene Keys was actually because of you and one of the workshops that you held in Bali in person, which was
Bless you.
so synchronistic for me and learning about myself. And I remember being fascinated by the fact that you would just have these huge downloads and then just be able to make a book within a day. I was like, whoa, how does this happen? It's magical. This is so cool. And then me going down my one line of my human design and my profile, I was like, I need to know everything about human design. So then I went down this rabbit hole of learning about human design, which I really resonated with, because it was very structural. It was very like, gave me the science. And yes, Gene Keys has a lot of the science as well, and goes back into the codons and the DNA, which I later found out. But I feel like had I not had the foundation from human design, I wouldn't have understood the Gene Keys, which was the way I needed to decode the language, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. So now you've come to do all these sessions. Can you give us a, I'm fascinated, what's something that you've learnt from some of your clients about yourself, I guess, by holding these sessions?
Very interesting question. I feel like in every session I learn more about myself, even though obviously like the every session is about the client. And my one of my jobs or like things that I do in preparation or at the beginning is like get out of my own way. It's not to project anything. I kind of like, I have my own like practice and prayer that I like invite my own like spirit in, and I just like, again, like I was saying, I get out of my own way to become a clear channel for that which needs to come through me. But even through this, it's interesting enough that like I would say all the clients that I attract, all the people that come to work with me, one way or another, mirror parts of my own journey. Obviously, through different circumstances, different conditioning, different cultures, families, whatsoever, challenges, blueprints. But still, like I could see a lot of my own challenges, and it makes sense because in a way, it's like through our own healing journey, like we are able to more or less like guide others, you know, like even in the gene keys you have this like the sphere of your core wound. That's basically your like the collective wound that you're carrying within you, that you are here to alchemize, becomes your vocation. So it's the same sphere, core wound, that becomes vocation. So it makes a lot of sense logically for me that you have to walk through fire to be able to help someone afterwards walk through fire. So you have to embody it. So the more I work on like myself and like different aspects of my own shadows and conditioning, it's interesting enough that my clients like mirror that to certain degrees. So yeah, I have a lot of epiphanies. Sorry, just closing the tea here. I hope you the water was boiling. So I have a lot of epiphanies during the sessions, of course. Especially also after the sessions when I like go in like a journal, because in the session I'm like very focused on the client. I kind of like go into this mode of like yeah, putting myself in their shoes, being a channel, like listening. But then like after the session when I journal a lot, and then I also like start connecting a lot of dots, and I see things in my own journey, which yeah gives me plenty of insights to contemplate. And then I realized like wow, interesting. And then also astrology, like I learned so much astrology through my clients. I would say like pretty much most of, or if not all, the astrology that I've learned is through sessions. Like I started doing sessions very early on my journey. Obviously there were like very different sessions. Like right now I go much deeper, and my practice keeps evolving. But yeah, I think I started working with other people like few weeks after I like read my first chart, and then I was straight into like, oh, let me read the charts for my friends. Then people that I was meeting in Bali, it like left and right, or like coffee shops. I would just like go to a coffee shop, have a cacao, and then the person next to me would see that I'm working with a chart, and then we would have a conversation, and then next thing you know, I was looking at their chart and we would like talk about it. So I feel like yeah, a lot of, if not all, the astrology was learned through this real life, working with people and seeing how those placements manifest in their life. So because sure, like you can learn through books, you can learn through courses. I've read some books, like pretty good books, and there's a lot of interesting ways and knowledge out there. So I'm not dismissing that, but I'm also saying that one of my greatest teachers was like working with people. Also in my own view, I see the charts as like unmanifested potential. So it's very enlightening to see how that manifests in someone else's life through the choices that they make. So yeah, I would say that's one of the things that I learned the most out of working with others.
I love that. And it just takes me back to our session that we had in Bali where you read my astrology chart, and I was
God bless you.
quite, yeah, I was quite like not dumbfounded, but my mind had expanded, I would say, in a way that, as you said, like the language and the depth of how my chart was telling me about my past. It was like, has it been written? Is it because of my free will and my choices? And I remember like thinking like, oh,
Interesting.
what? How? Does that mean that I don't need to make any choices because any choices are already written? Or so that's a really interesting one. And what's your take on that?
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one. Let me try to synthesize it. So like I was saying a few sentences ago, that I feel like that like the chart, when we look at an astrology chart, is an unmanifested potential, like a blueprint, right? But with a blueprint too, like actually let's take this example. Like you have a seed, right, of a tree, but then that seed grows different depending on which country. If I plant it here in Romania, or if I go plant it in Bali, depending on the climate, how I water it, the nutrients, the soil, like there's so many factors that can dictate how that seed, what that seed will turn into, right? But it does have a constraint, like no matter where I plant it and how I turn it, if the seed needs to grow a cedar, it's not going to grow a tomato, right? Like there's a certain container, right, context to it, but that context has a lot of variables in how it expresses. Same with like a building blueprint, right? You have a blueprint, but then that can evolve, right, as you're building it. So same was with a chart. Like a chart is that seed, is your unmanifested potential, like the lessons that you're here to learn, like your karmic story, your gifts, your shadow, all of these things, right? But then how that manifests in the end, that's your free will. That's based on the choices that you make in life and how you navigate them. So your fated aspect is the circumstances that you find yourself into. Life will always give you the ingredients for the work that you need to do, right? Like the conditioning that we're born into presents us with the right ingredients for the lessons that we need to learn. But then the choices that we make through those circumstances and through the people that we meet dictates like how our life will unfold. Is that play between dharma and karma, right? Like karma dictates like what we encounter in our life, and then through the decision that we make, it's our dharmic path will unfold. So I feel like this is that play between free will and what's the other word? Sorry, I'm like
Destiny?
blanking now. Yeah, so destiny and free will is that your chart, the context in which you are playing. So for example, I'm an Aquarius, right? So no matter what I do, like I still play within that context of being an Aquarius. Like I can't be a Libra, for example, even though I really like Libra, but whatever. It's like I was born an Aquarius. But then how I manifest that Aquarian archetype in my life, it depends. Like you can have like so many Aquarius and they're gonna be different and their life's gonna be different. And you can see that even when you think about like having a twin sibling, right? I'm through my clients, I met people that have twins that were born like 2, 3, 4 minutes apart, and up to 4 minutes apart, even the degree of their ascendant is the same. Like their chart is identical, yet like their lives are completely different, like completely different. And then I'm like, well, the chart is not deterministic in that way. It doesn't say who you're going to become. It doesn't say how your life is going to be. It will tell you what you're going to be navigating, like the energetic waves. It will tell you like your rites of passage and when they happen. It will tell you like your individuation journey, and it will tell you that context in which you're going to play. But how that unfolds, no, that's our free will. And I really love this. I love having this creative freedom. For me, if everything was determined, you'd be like, well, like, yeah, I'm not, that's not that fun. But the creative freedom for me, that's way more fun. And I don't want to necessarily get into that too much, but like that's why personally I don't believe in predictions, and I don't believe in predictive astrology. I know it's a big thing and I know a lot of people do it. Just personally, I don't believe in it because I feel like that negates this aspect of like creative freedom. I do believe certain things can be predicted, like I was saying, when you go through rites of passage, because you can look at transits and progressions and you can see when some things are going to happen, some planetary alignments. But what happens during those, I feel like that's creative freedom. That's like your choices will influence.
I have so many questions, Andrei. What if your team's biggest breakthrough came from within? At InnerVox, we create tailored workshops for corporate companies that unlock confidence, communication, and collaboration. We're not your typical training. Our workshops are dynamic, experiential, laughter-filled, and designed to create lasting transformation. We use creative techniques, performance psychology, and real human connection. We help your people build trust and express themselves and perform at their absolute best by listening to their intuition and their inner voice. Because when your people grow, your business also grows. Visit innervox.co.uk/corporate today and click the link in the description below. My first thing that's coming to me is like going back to the seed analogy. It's kind of like linking all the elements. So we have the earth of seedling, and then you have like life's throwing things at you, which is like the air, and like how that seed, you know, then starts to grow will determine, you know, with the conditions of like the air and wind that comes and the rain, the weather. The air is kind of like the weather of the storm, or like the sunshine, and then it can grow into whatever it needs to be, whether it kind of, what was the word I'm looking for? It kind of withstands that storm, and then it grows, and then it learns, and its DNA changes so that it can then be, it's the survival of the fittest, isn't it, really?
True.
So that was really cool how you worded that. And the next thing I wanted to say was with the rites of passage. Can you explain what you mean by that? Because I've not heard that terminology before.
Well, a rite of passage is kind of like a threshold of becoming, you know, like if we all have our individuation journey, right? So during this journey, like we go through certain thresholds in our lives, right? When we're tested, you know, there's like on the story of, I like to talk, for example, from like storytelling point of view. So I love mythology. So like you see, like in all myths, you have this like the hero that leaves the home, the safety of the comfort zone, and then ventures into the darkness, and then they go through these rites of passage that they need to learn certain things. They go through deaths and rebirths, right? Like in every myth, every story, every movie, the hero goes through these deaths and rebirths to learn more about themselves, to learn about their skills, their powers, whatsoever. And then is that return back as an individuated person. So throughout our lives, these are the rites of passage when we go through these deaths and rebirths, right? When an identity is tested, and then kind of like we are called to expand past that current identity. So through those thresholds is where we make choices of, are we choosing from the shadow, are we choosing like, or a higher aspect of ourselves, right? So that's why I'm saying like through the rites of passage is how we grow through life. Those are the trials and tribulations, right? The death and rebirth, the cycle, the Ouroboros that keeps going. So life is full of rites of passage, and those are sure something that you can predict in an astrology, because you can look at, for example, Saturn return, right? Everyone goes through it. You cannot avoid it. Like it doesn't matter what you do around the age of 30, 28, 30, you're going to go through Saturn return. Is
Is
one
that
of the
because
biggest.
Saturn goes around over 30 years?
Exactly. Saturn
Right.
takes 28
28
and a
years.
half, 30, depending on because it doesn't have a regular through some sign it takes longer, through some it takes less, but anyway, like around 28 and a half years to go around the sun. So everyone around that age will go through that rite of passage, right? And then the choices that you make there will shape the identity and the person that you become after. And then you have the integration period, right? In your early 30s when you integrate that. And there's like so many of them. Like right now, for example, I'm 38, right? I just went through one of my big rites of passage, which was my nodal return at 37. So that was huge. That happened last summer. There's been a couple of others too. My waxing Saturn square. That's another big.
What does that mean? Waxing Saturn square.
Sorry about it.
That's like, I'm like, what?
So you know, like if you look at because you said about the incarnation cross, for example. So if you see the chart as a square, right, you have a cross that in the middle of it, right? So then every 90-degree angle on that cross, it's called a square. So squares in astrology are 90 degrees, are when two planets are
Two planets are
separated by
90,
90
right.
degrees apart, right? So a waxing is, even when you think about the lunar phase,
The
right?
moon, yeah.
Waxing is rising, waning is when it's like settling, right? So waxing, it means the first square after Saturn return, for example. Or yeah, so the
So
first
the first bit out when it comes out of that.
yeah, so for
Right.
example, at 30s when I had my Saturn return, right? My own. It was like quite late. It was around the age of 30. So at 37, 7 years later, because that's how much it takes for Saturn to make one little square. So if you split the circle into 4 quadrants, each quadrant takes 7 years, right? Because in total it's around 28 years. So each one is around 7 years. So then it means like after 7 years later, you go into another Saturn uh, checkpoint, so to say, like rite of passage. Then 7 years later, you have another one, and then you have the Saturn opposition, and then you have the waning square, and then the return. And each planet does this journey. Each planet, it's kind of like its own individuation. I mean, not the individuation journey. It's its own. It's called the synodical cycle, its own cycle, right? In astrology, but it mirrors our own individuation journey. We begin from the ascendant, we go down in our first square, then we go to the descendant, then the zenith of the chart, and then back to, and
I feel
that's
like this is
the
going over my head. So
bless
okay,
your heart.
so the ascendant is the rising sign.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say that the rising sign is like the most important rather than your sun sign. What's your opinion on that?
I say it is the most important in astrology because the rising sign, it's also like it it's kind of like the birth canal, like that's how you the chart starts to like your whole chart, your whole individuation journey, your whole hero's journey, to call it like that, starts from the moment of the ascendant. So that degree of where the ascendant is, it is like your most important. uh but I would say for me every placement is important. Like I look at some charts, and for example, like there's sure the sun is kind of like the central piece. If you think like we all gravitate around the sun, right? It holds the whole solar system. It's like the center star, right? It is important. The moon as well is our own satellite. It represents our emotional body, also our ego in evolutionary astrology. It is important. Like everything is kind of like important in its own way. And in some people's charts, there's different placements that are more quote unquote important. I would say all of them. But yeah, maybe to answer your question, yeah, the ascendant would be like the most important thing, because that is the beginning of your journey. And that's also like kind of representing of your soul. If your sun is kind of like your your ego, yeah, I would say the ascendant is more like your pure essence.
Okay. Right. So for my rising sign, it's Taurus.
Yeah.
My sun sign's Cancer and my moon is Pisces. So how would you depict that? Just with that knowledge, without looking at my chart.
I mean, just from those three, it looks very balanced. But then it also means like your sun is at the bottom of the chart, your moon is at the top of the chart. So I'm guessing you were born at the nighttime. Um,
I was born in the morning, 1:58 in the morning.
right. But then, yeah. So it's interesting. Like your moon is kind of like what nurtures you, like in an easier to say English term, is kind of like your secret to happiness, so to say. So being at the top of the chart, that means like it's more towards the public eye, more towards being out there, being seen. Even though Pisces is like, yeah, I mean Pisces is very artistic and such, but then the sun is at the bottom of your chart. So the sun is like your vitality, and being at the bottom of the chart, it means more private time. It's kind of like you get recharged more when you're like alone, or you're in your own privacy. But then that moon is always that desire to be seen. So it's an interesting dynamic there. Whereas Taurus has this stability. Taurus is very yeah, it's a fixed earth sign. It also like very it loves a lush life filled with like pleasure and the beauty of experiencing what it means to be human in a human body. Yeah, like obviously you need to look at the whole uh, chart and see how they play together. But just from those three, I don't know, like a short sentence, I'll guess
No, I mean
that's
that
my
kind of
take.
like that just that kind of just summarized me very, very quickly. It was very interesting because that's what I was just curious about what you'd say about that. With just
Bless
those
you.
three signs. That's so cool. But I didn't realize that the Cancer was at the bottom, with being the sun, and the moon would be at the top.
Yeah,
Um,
because if Taurus is your rising sign, that means like Taurus Scorpio axis is like, you know, the ascendant
yeah.
descendant. So all the signs that are like from Taurus to Scorpio are at the bottom of the chart, and Cancer is after Taurus, right? So
Uh,
it means it's at the bottom, and all the signs that are from Scorpio to Taurus are at the top of the chart. So Pisces is at the top. But also because you have Pisces, Cancer, Sun and Moon, and they're both water elements, it means they form a trine. And a trine is a harmonious element in astrology. So it means your sun and your moon, these aspects of you, feminine, masculine, inner, outer, this duality is in a very harmonious aspect. So it means there's not a conflict there. Whereas for me, for example, it's like I have a quincunx between them. I'm not going to explain what that is because it's too astrological. I'm just going to say that that's a bit more challenging aspect. So it means like two places that don't see each other well. So it means my sun and my moon, by default, they don't get along well, and my job is to integrate them. But for
mm,
you, it means they get along pretty well because that trine is harmonious.
interesting. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't have resonated with that, say, last year. I would have felt like
Okay.
very trying to be in my feminine, or like really feeling like I was holding a lot and being in my masculine a lot and having to push and drive
Right.
a lot in my past. But now I do feel very harmonious in them, and I do feel that there's a very much of a balance with them, and that's interesting. Um, Anyways, I want to touch on your darkroom retreat that you did last year. Can you tell us
Mm.
about those experiences? And yeah, how
Yeah.
was that for you? What is a darkroom retreat for anyone that doesn't know what that is?
So darkroom retreat is basically you go in a dark room that's specifically designed to not allow any light in. Some of them are also like soundproof. The one where I was, it was not soundproof because it's a cabin in the middle of the forest, and like you can still feel like hear the animals and the nature sounds, but they did provide like headsets. So if you wanted like soundproof, you can use headsets. But anyway, the idea is that you go into this place that's light sealed. So it's kind of like a, yeah, descent into the darkness where you're just you and yourself. And you can stay for, yeah, whatever, like set periods of time. I started with 3 days. And then I had another 10 days of integration, like outside the dark room. But like in the physical darkness, I was there for 3 days, so 72 hours. I would say it was probably the one of the best experiences of my life, and one of the most, yeah, one of the most intense awakenings. And intense not in the sense that I felt intense there, because it felt very peaceful. It it just kind of like rewrote my approach to life and my relationship with like beauty and intent and stillness and all of these things. So
Mm,
long story short, like I was fascinated by this idea of going into the dark. Wait, I'm just prepping the tea here. So going into the dark, because for me it's like it seems like one of the most pure medicines, because you just you and yourself. There's no substance. There's nothing that you need to ingest or take or whatever. It's just like literally you with you, and that's it. So it seemed pure. So it seemed like wow. I mean, if I really want to meet all layers of myself, it's like just cut all the noise and just be with me. But obviously, like leading up to it, yeah, there were certain fears. I was thinking, wow, how it's gonna be, especially because I'm super sensitive. I'm also very psychic. I can see things, I can feel things, I can tune into different realms. So I was thinking, wow, when there's no other noise and it's just me there in that blank with that blank canvas of the darkness, like who knows what's gonna come, and am I gonna be able to hold that? So obviously there was and plus like the mind's worry of like, oh, am I gonna get bored, what am I gonna do for all this time? So anyway, there were like these fears, but paradoxically the moment when I turn off the lights, because you go inside the cabin, you get accustomed to the layout of the room, and then it's you who like turns off the lights, and then that's it, you're not gonna see light anymore for like 3 days. Anyway, so the moment that I turn off the light, even though there was that fear, then in that moment it was like complete bliss. Like literally, it was the most pure, beautiful, nourishing silence that I've ever experienced in my life. It was like the mind was completely like silent. It was like so many years of always thinking, because I'm a very mental person. I like being in the mind. I'm also, like I was saying, I'm a double Aquarius. I have my Mercury is on the exact degree of my ascendant, so my mind is going non-stop, like thinking so many things at once. uh so yeah, it was so beautiful, like being in that darkness in that moment. There were no more options, nothing to choose, nothing, nowhere to be, nowhere to, no projects to think about, no people to answer to. It was just, there was no more options, just to be. And it was so nourishing. And for the first time in a long time, I think, or even in my life, I realized, like, wow, this quiet. It's like, wow, this medicine is really, it's all I've ever wanted. And it was so good. It was so good to the point that like on day 3, when there was time to come out, and like the facilitator comes there, she lets you know, oh, like it's getting close to the time to come out, because sometimes you lose track of time there. And yeah, then I started to feel a little bit of anxiety, because I was like, I don't want to go out. I started to fear like all the stimuli, the inputs, the noise, and I was like, I just like it here in the dark. It felt so good. But yeah, like again, long story short, at the moment that I was really coming out, yeah, when they took the covers off the door, I suddenly saw like this ring of light around the rim of the doors, which was like, imagine like 3 days of seeing just pitch black. It was like the deepest black that you could ever see, like not the black that you see in your room at night, like way deeper than that, like literally like the blackest black. And then suddenly you see this like ring around the door, like that. Even though the light was probably very subtle, but for my eyes that were getting so sensitive, it was blinding. It was like, wow, like this super like deep fire. And it was like, whoa, it was like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And then like obviously like opening the door, I I I was trying to hold on the tears, because before I asked the facilitator if she can like record me when I come out. So basically she was there with the phone, and I knew that she was gonna record me when I come out because I let her know in advance. Anyway, I go out, and I was trying to hold on the tears, but like nah, it was impossible. It was like overwhelmingly beautiful. And like seeing nature, colors, everything. Yeah, like I spent the rest of that day just like, actually I spent the whole week after, like without my phone, without nothing, just immersing in the beauty of nature and the surroundings. And the surroundings were super nice. I did it in Les Waterfalls, north of Bali. This very lush, beautiful like nature. It's like small village, and everything is just like beautiful nature around it. So anyway, coming out of the darkness and seeing that, and it was sunset time because I came out like at sunset time and seeing like the sky in all the pretty colors. It was just, yeah, I'm never gonna forget that moment. Like that first minute of coming out of the dark room was basically the best minute of my life by far.
It reminds me of a child being born.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
like a birth. You came out of the womb. You saw the ring
It
of
felt
light.
like
It
that.
was blinding. You came out and you saw colors. It's like a child being born, and I think the way you were describing that was just so beautiful. I could imagine it all. I was visualizing it. I feel like I was living it with you. I could imagine the beauty. It was actually making me feel so peaceful listening to you
Bless you.
say that. And the thing is, we can access that at any time. Any time. We can access that silence, that peace. But we add these layers of stories onto our field, onto our lens, from our conditioning, from society, from whatever life is coming in front of us in our reality. But we have the ability to go back to that silence at any moment.
Exactly. Yeah, it was interesting because in that moment, and I wrote about this, I published an article afterwards about my whole experience, and I went pretty in depth. And one thing that came to me after, like during my integration period, and this experience, just parenthesis here, had long lasting effects in my life. So it wasn't just that those 10 days, like I was saying, like I started to become more intentional of where I'm spending my energy, my attention, to be more present in my life. So I started to align with the rhythms of nature. Anyway, so a lot of like long-lasting effects after it. But the thing that like really came to me in those moments, and I was reflecting a lot about it during the integration period, is how I felt like the purpose of life for me in that moment was beauty, was just to observe beauty. I felt like we were born here in this physical body with five senses, reality, to be observers of the beauty of nature. And when we can just be present enough that we can just take that beauty in and realize, like, wow, this is why I'm here. It's just to witness this, to be a record of how beautiful life is, and that beauty is also a reflection of me, because we are nature, we are part of nature. So the beauty that we see is also the beauty that is within us. That is it for me. There was nowhere else. There was nothing that I needed in that moment. There was nothing to do, nothing to achieve, nothing to leave behind, but just a record that I lived and that I was here to witness that beauty that was in front of my eyes.
Beautiful.
Bless you.
So, as we come to the end of our podcast, I want to give you the opportunity to just touch on anything that you feel that we haven't maybe talked about today that you want to share before I ask you my final 3 questions, which I ask all my guests.
I guess because this is something that I feel like, at least in my own experience, is the most important thing in in this hero's journey that we all go through, is reframing life as, let me see how to put it into easier words. So reframing life as an evolutionary journey. So basically it means that the purpose is not to survive. The purpose is to thrive. And the purpose that, like, this life, we're here to learn and to grow and to evolve. And that means that all our conditioning, everything that we go through, no matter how traumatic it is, challenging, all of these things, the sole purpose is to awaken us to remember who we are and to access deeper layers of ourselves. So for me, it's kind of like in every moment is asking yourself, not why is this happening to me, like what did I do, like karma is not retribution, but like what can I learn through this, how can I meet myself deeper through this, what is this trying to teach me about myself, and how can I use the circumstance to grow, to expand, to be more, to see more, to experience more, to see more beauty. So for me, this is like that biggest shift from victim mindset of, oh, life is happening to me and I'm here to survive it, to no, create a mind shift. And this is that creative like freedom that I was talking about. It's like I am given the circumstances for my own benefit, for my own growth. It doesn't matter how grim they look at this moment, but they are for my own growth. And the more I go through them, the more aligned choices that I make, the more the circumstances will reflect the higher levels of consciousness that I'm accessing. So it's like shifting from life happens to me to life happens for me and eventually through me. So I feel like for me this is like the thing that like shifted my perception the most, when I was able to like reframe life from this. Because then no matter what you go through, you can always approach it with grace, with gratitude, and with that creative freedom of realizing like, no, you're not here to be a victim, you're here to thrive, you're here to grow, you're here to be a witness of beauty.
Beautiful. I feel like you've answered my question already, which is what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's lost and trying to find their purpose? I feel like you've just answered that.
But I have one more. To
Go
listen.
for it. I'd love it.
Just that, to listen.
To listen.
I feel like when we listen, everything is there. It's like we all came here having all the answers. Life speaks through us, through every person that we meet, through every circumstances that we meet. All we need to do is listen. Like, quiet the noise, just listen.
I
That's
have
it.
on my wall in front of me, it's listen equals silent, because when you turn those words around, all the letters of the word, it becomes silent. And
Beautiful. Wow, I didn't think of it.
this is something that I learned from Deborah Silverman, who's also an astrologist. And she mentioned this, and I just had a moment like that. I was like, wow, yes, of course. It's the same energetics, it's the same vibration. When we listen, when we're silent, everything comes to you, because we have the wisdom within us.
I mean, there's got to be a reason why evolutionary we have 2 ears and only one mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the secret of growing. It's listening.
And thank you so much for that. Where can people find more about you and the amazing offerings that you're doing in the world? I know that you've got a lot of writing as well that you do, as well as your one-to-one sessions. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Substack, and YouTube. It's the same handles, just my name, Andrei Topli. Instagram, I post a lot more like visuals. I also like to post like my video work and like creative expression. Substack is more for like deep diving into like astrology themes and self-growth. And YouTube is experimental for now. I'm like playing with it. Those are kind of like the only socials that I use. So yeah, anyone can find me there. I also have a school community. It's called the Fifth House, because in astrology, the fifth house is the house of creativity and creative expression. So yeah, it's at the beginning, but it's growing, and I'm planning to put a lot more energy into it. So yeah, I guess those are Instagram and Substack will be like the go-to.
And you also have your 4-week and 6-week, are they courses? You got the Cosmos and the Astrology 101.
Yeah, so I haven't launched it publicly yet. It's there's a lot of other I was doing an event this past 2 weeks, so that delayed a bit my working on it. But yeah, I'm launching it's called Cosmos and Creativity program, which is like a short program of helping people translate their like gifts and learn how to articulate the value of their work through branding, through aligned messaging, and again, everything is done with the astrology framework in the background. So we look at the chart and we work directly through with it. So it'll be fun. It'll be very like light, but it'll be nice because it's practical. So you basically like look at your archetypes and start to play with them with like colors, with words, and start to like weave in your own medicine in a way that's like aligned, that speaks to the your aligned people. So yeah, it should be
Beautiful.
fun.
I love that. And you've got an in-person retreat in Romania at the end of May called
Oh yeah, I'm
Regenerate.
yeah, I'm actually more like invited to facilitate a workshop. I'm
Amazing.
not one of the main organizers, but yeah, I'm doing like with a few of my best friends. We're doing this like in-person retreat in nature in Romania, which is nice because the first time ever that I'm doing that, so it will be fun. Yeah, we'll see how it yeah how it
Amazing.
goes.
So if you want to find Andrei, please do look in the show notes where you'll find all the descriptions there for and the websites and handles to work with him personally.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Andrei. There's one more question I want, and that's
sure.
what's one takeaway that you want the listener to leave with today from today's podcast?
That they are the creators of their own reality. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Feel empowered. Take life into your own matters. Take responsibility for your inner state, for your life. The moment we take responsibility, life starts to answer on the same frequency. So I feel like it's important to learn that you are a creator.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing everything today and teaching me more about astrology. I always love learning more about astrology. I love it, and having conversations with you. Thank you. I've really
Thank you.
loved
It
it.
was really nice today. Yeah. I loved being on the podcast with you. Yeah, it was totally unscripted. I didn't know what we were going to talk about.
No,
Like I had a
no,
feeling we are going to talk about astrology because, like, obviously. But
yeah,
yeah, it was so fun, and I think you're doing an
yeah.
amazing job. I really, really,
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And actually, you are a huge inspiration for me because I listened to one of your podcasts
Mm,
back in 2024, and it was a podcast with you and a lovely lady called Fiona, who is a human design
mm,
expert. And that was the reason that I learned all about human design. So it's a little fractal of your podcast, I feel. So thank you
yeah.
for giving me the inspiration and giving me the knowledge. So I'm sure that this will help a lot of people out there and do the same. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, we have to do another one now on my podcast too, where
100%.
I'm going to invite you as a guest.
100%. I'd
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
Let's do it.
And thank you
Bless you.
so much for listening and tuning in today. If you enjoyed, please do like this video and share it with someone who you might feel needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button and comment below your thoughts on the episode or your awakening experience and share your voice. I love to hear and love to read all your comments and reply to them. So I'm sending so much love. Until next time, see you in the next episode.
Thank you so much.